the wedding RSVP I never sent, but apparently accepted. The email arrived at 6:11 a.m., all soft fonts and white space, like an apology that had learned calligraphy. Delighted to confirm your RSVP for Mara and Holden. Ceremony at 19:30. Reception to follow in the Orchid Ballroom. Black tie optional. Guest, +1 confirmed. I was still blinking at confirmed when the door buzzer went and a courier slid a thick envelope under our door. Inside, a place card with my name embossed in silver, a parking pass for the Arcadia Hotel, and a table assignment that made my stomach step away from me for a second. Table 11, me, the hospital's interim CFO, 2 City Hall aides who never meet publicly, a developer's counsel who always wears navy, and because fate drinks espresso, Tamsin Arledge. Why does your ex get tabled with you at a wedding we weren't invited to? Zoe asked, holding the card between 2 fingers like it might stain. Why did we RSVP to a wedding we didn't know existed? I said, because the only way out is sometimes through. Zoe hooked a bare foot on the counter rung and watched my face. Her hair was still damp from the shower. She smelled like the soap she buys when a day looks like it might require forgiveness. She runs a women's legal clinic that sues the kind of men who think prenups are personality traits. I manage other people's fires for a living and keep spare keys for lies I'd like to open later. Say the word, she said, before the day could decide for us. Honeysuckle, I said, hatting the syllables and needing them anyway. That stupid password has saved us more times than the truth. It is the sound we make when the city tries to pick us up and shake us to see what falls out. Are we actually going? She asked. Only if we're the arsonists, I said. Read the names again. She did. She chewed the last one. Tamsin still works for Verdant Holdings. Special projects, I said. Which is developer for bribe without bag? And the hospital CFO, she said. The board votes Tuesday on the merger. I nodded. The Arcadia wedding wasn't a wedding. It was a softness machine. You take the people who are about to do something with consequences and put them in a room with floral chandeliers and expertly dimmed light, feed them halibut, tell them love is a community benefit, then hand them pens. The text pinged from an unknown number, timed too perfectly to be mistaken. Don't be late. No substitutions for table 11. T. Tamsin, Zoe said. She wants to see if we still react to our old weather, I said. React, Zoe said, playful and nowhere near forgiving. Perform, I corrected. She wants to see if I still like a stage. We spent the morning doing triage. Zoe with 2 clients whose husbands thought divorce meant the house would politely walk away. Me on the phone with a bored chair who wanted to know if the optics of a donor nomming a wing after his girlfriend could be softened into philanthropy. By noon, the courier sent a follow-up envelope with a velvet wristband and a QR code. The wristband read Orchid in a serif that felt expensive. The QR code opened a glossy page offering PhotoCab, instant memories. Scan to preload your favorite shots so you appear in friends' photos tonight. Preload, Zoe said, eyebrows lifting. Reference set, I said, scanning the code with a burner. They'll scrape our public album, map our faces, and make it look like we were where we weren't. A handy tool when half the room can't be seen together in a frame. So someone else could show me a photo of you and say, look, he was with Tamsin at 2312, Zoe said. And we'd spend 2 weeks unpicking the pixel lies, I said. Zoe made a face like she was about to cross-examine a lamp. We could not go, she said, and let them Photoshop us anyway. Or we go, I said, and seize the narrative before someone makes it a wedding album. The Arcadia's lobby is made of money pretending it believes in love. The fountain tries to whisper. The staff smiles as if they understand everyone is fragile. I've learned to read that smile. It means the room upstairs is already recording. The Orchid Ballroom did the thing ballroom names do, filled itself with light like a practiced liar. The floral arch was a bouquet's idea of heaven. Mara and Holden were not in evidence. At the back of the room, a tasteful sign directed family and friends toward the terrace. Inside, table 11 had been set like a courtroom pretending to be a garden. Tamsin arrived first. She's one of those people who makes a dress look like it was invented to express her opinions. She hugged Zoe, did not hug me, and took in the room like she had built it with nothing but a phone and the audacity of always being early. "You look like good lighting," she said to Zoe, "and like you came here to ruin something." "We brought matchbooks," Zoe said and sat. Tamsin's mouth tilted. "You never did bore him," she said, to me softer. "Hello, Jace." "Hello," I said. "Who's getting married?" She grinned, wicked and not entirely proud of it. "Verdant's next quarter," she said, but they dressed it up so the staff wouldn't revolt. The hospital CFO slid into his seat like a man who hadn't decided which virtue to bring to dinner. The two aides arranged place cards to avoid a photographed adjacency that would upset someone's ethics spreadsheet. Counsel in Navy smoothed his tie, looked at Zoe, then at Tamsin, then decided to pretend he had not been outsmarted by a seating chart. A woman in black stepped to the mic, called herself a friend of the couple, and welcomed us to a celebration of community. The piano started. A screen descended like a polite threat. A sizzle reel played. Bobbies, sunsets, ribbon cuttings, the word care written in a font that believes it can fix floodplains. "Photocab is live," the woman said. "Scan your card and make memories." Across the room, a halo-lit booth purred like a cat that's learned to open refrigerators. A queue formed. Interns, donors, two people who looked like they'd been promised jobs that would let them regret less. "Did you preload?" Tamsin asked me, too casual not to be a move. "Did you forge my RSVP?" I asked back. She didn't flinch. "I rehearsed it," she said. "At a long table with men who think consent is a mood. You were always too good with pens." Zoe took my hand under the table and pressed her thumb into the hinge below my collarbone, the place that resets me. "We can do this later," she said to Tamsin. "Right now, I want to see how you built your trap." Tamsin's laugh had an aftertaste I remembered. "It's not mine," she said. "It's theirs. I just hung the drapes." The CFO raised his glass. "To inevitable outcomes," he said, not even pretending to be embarrassed. "You'll need a new toast," Zoe said, smiling sweet and sharp. "We're here." The server arrived with halibut and a spiel about sustainable choices. The aides drank like the night owed them a souvenir. Counsel in Navy murmured something to the CFO that included the word 3-2. I excused myself to stretch my legs. I counted steps to the photo cab the way I count steps to a door I'm going to pick. The booth had a Crown logo hidden in the corner like a watermark. The attendant wore a headset and the wary look of someone who knows he's not paid for the fallout. "Busy," I said. He shrugged, which is hospitality for, "I've been told not to talk." "I love your captive portal," I said, laying the burner on the counter. "The part where it requests temporary photo library access, while preloading is chef's kiss. The part where it saves the access token for 24 hours is a felony." The headset man blinked as if I gently slapped him with a business card. "I just run the prints," he said. "Corporate handles the magic." I popped the side panel like I was removing a stubborn earring. Inside, an access point with a microSD, a tiny switch, and a sticker with a number no one would notice unless they wanted to be uninvited from rooms like this forever. I flicked the switch off. The halo dimmed. Somewhere on the other side of the ballroom, a person frowned into a phone. "Maintenance," the attendant offered, hopeful. "Conscience," I said. Back at table 11, Tamsin was telling Zoe a story about a ribbon cutting in a town that didn't know it had been repainted to look like a mural. Zoe's attention was focused in that way she reserves for people she likes, but won't let off the hook. "Your camera is sleeping," I told Tamsin. "I know," she said. "If it worked, we wouldn't be having this conversation." "Then what's the play?" I asked. She looked at the CFO. "He wants to be loved," she said. "We give him a room where he thinks he is, and he gives us a vote that lets Verdant pretend it believes in sunlight. And you? I want you to do the thing you always do," she said. "Salvage something that matters from a night designed to prevent it." The woman in black returned to the mic, voice warm as expensive wine. "Time for a couple of words," she said, "from the people who make this city possible." Zoe squeezed my knee once and stood up before the room could be formally serenaded by someone who buys ribbon wholesale. She walked to the mic like it owed her rent. "I wasn't asked to speak," she said, smiling at the host. "But that means none of you had a chance to tell me no. I'll be brief." You could feel the oxygen change. She is not a dramatic person. She is precise. The room respects precision by accident. "I'm told tonight is about love," she said. "So let's love the order of things. Clinics before pavilions. Escrow before photos. Votes in the daylight before promises made under chandeliers. If you don't want your faces in frames you didn't consent to, keep your phones in your pockets and your wallets out of other people's decisions. If you are at table 11, you already know what I'm talking about." Half the room turned toward us like we'd suddenly become the stage. The CFO went very still, the way animals do before they decide if you are a car or a storm. Counsel in Navy texted someone so fast his glass rattled. Zoe was not done. "And a small request," she said. "To the people who run this beautiful hotel, if you're going to use a photo booth to make memories, don't preload faces without consent. It's impolite and illegal." It was the word illegal that changed the composition of the air. Somewhere a person swore softly in a headset. The halo at the booth flickered back on, then off again, as if the machine had decided it no longer wanted to be responsible for romance. Tamsin watched me the way you watch weather, receptive, wary, impressed despite yourself. She leaned close enough to make the part of my brain that misremembers us clear its throat. "You picked a better partner," she said. "I hate that for my resume." "You picked a better job," I said. She snorted. "Define better," she said, and her knuckles brushed mine under the table in a motion that could have been an accident and wasn't. It was the kind of contact that makes a decent man pause. I paused. Then I reached for Zoe's hand where it lay on the tablecloth and threaded our fingers. The CFO stood. The room watched him the way a courtroom watches a witness who could be the short version or the long version of a story. He raised his glass. His voice did not tremble, which impressed me more than it should have. "To the clinic," he said, "first." Raines did not clap. DeVere did, one slow, measured, luxurious clap. Then the room followed like it had been waiting to be told what to love. After, in the corridor, under a print of a river that never misbehaved, Tamsin trapped me briefly in that gorgeous old tension of hours like a moth in a shirt. "You made a choice," she said. I keep making it, I said. Is it boring? She asked, mouth tilted. It's steady, I said, and surprised myself by not missing the old electricity at all. Back in the ballroom, the band found a tempo that made rich people move like they could pretend gravity was a friend. Zoe pulled me onto the dance floor without asking. We have two dances, the one respectable enough for small eyes and the one we do when the room stops belonging to the city. She started with respectable. I followed. When respectable bored her, she put her mouth near my jaw and used the voice that buys me like a deed. Bathroom, she whispered, 3 minutes. It was not obscene. It was accurate. We have a habit of making private proofs when public rooms try to draft us. She closed the stall door with her heel and kissed me like a verdict. The night leaned in with its ear. I put my palms on her hips and moved her into the present tense. When she said say it, I did, and the password went from embarrassing to sacrament. Honeysuckle. We returned to table 11, behaving exactly enough to be left alone. Rains and the aides had retreated to a side table where damage is negotiated in lower-lit vowels. The CFO smiled at no one in particular, the expression of a person whose better angels had finally shouted down the ones who shop for rings. Tamsin stood beside me as if we were both only here for the music, and not for the way the city invents crises that look like vows. "Do you forgive me for the RSVP?" she said. "I forgive myself for answering differently," I said. "You'll hate my next trick," she said. "I plan to," I said. The morning after, Zoe found the velvet wristband in the sink where she had left it when we got home, and I had lost the ability to prioritize objects. She held it up. "Souvenir?" she asked. "Evidence," I said. We taped it inside the cabinet with the spare keys and the ugly receipts that remind us how easily we are invited to become other people. The hospital board voted Tuesday. The merger got a hearing with conditions, escrow with teeth, and a camera policy written by someone who has met both shame and grace. The Arcadia replaced photocab with a Polaroid printer at the next gala. Raines posed with a child who did not know him. DeVere posted a thread about process that made me want to like her again for 9 full minutes. Tamsin sent a single text at 23:21, "You tipped too much." I didn't reply. Zoe took my phone and wrote back, "We pay for what we keep. Period." There are still nights when the city tries to RSVP us into rooms we didn't choose. There are still mornings when a courier slides a folded lie under our door. There are still exes whose knuckles brush old weather and make muscle memory wake with an unhelpful hope. But there is also the hinge under my collarbone, and Zoe's thumb, and a stupid word that turns the room back into ours when we need it cheap and fast. We're not clean. We're clear. We didn't send that RSVP, but we answered the right invitation anyway. And when the next envelope arrives, because of course it will, we'll open it together, kiss like witnesses, and decide whether to attend the wedding or burn down the theater. Either way, we'll leave with each other. That's the only reception I'm still willing to RSVP to without reading the fine print.